First of all, let's pay homage to the Supreme Buddha. Say Namo Tassa all together 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Okay, I welcome you all after a few weeks back. Once again, that we are going to start our Dhamma discussion series based on Four Noble Truths. So far that we have discussed about the main three noble truths. First noble truth. Lastly, that we started to discuss about the last noble truth, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And in that topic as well, we did a couple of discussions. So today that we have to discuss about the fourfold right understanding. In the book, 160 page onwards that we are going to discuss today. It's very important to understand the categories of the noble truths, especially the last one, the fourth noble truth that last time that we discussed about the tenfold right understanding. So today it's about right understanding about the four noble truths, fourfold right understanding. Tattakatama samma ditti, dukkhe jnanam, dukkha samude jnanam, dukkha nirodhe jnanam, dukkha nirodha gamini patipadaya jnanam, ayam uchyate samma ditti. This is the way in which right understanding has been dealt with in hundreds of suttas, explaining the Four Noble Truths. And in Abhidhamma, where Marga Sattva is expounded. It is affirmed here that knowledge that apprehends suffering, origin of suffering, cessation of suffering, and the way leading to the cessation of suffering, constitutes the fourfold right understanding. As this right understanding is concerned with the Four Noble Truths, it is thereby called Chatusatcha Sammaditthi, fourfold right understanding. So, Chatusatcha Sammaditthi means understanding about each of the truths. Yes, we all know that we completely experience, we 100% understand, comprehend the noble truths in the supramundane states when we entered to Margachittas and Palachittas. But here, before that we can understand these Four Noble Truths to some certain extent, it is also very important to penetrate or understand the Noble Truths. The tenfold right understanding, which was discussed previously, is included not only in Buddhism but in some other religions as well. This fourfold right understanding is found only in Buddhism. It cannot be found in whatsoever any other religion. It can be come across only at times where in a Buddha has been born unto the world and Buddhism flourishes. Therefore, it is a very rare form of right understanding. It is the most prominent of all the various types of right understandings. In order to manifest this, the most prominent form of right understanding, the Four Noble Truths, must be learned accurately. For some of you who read this, thinking may occur that the tenfold right understanding is not essential. To learn the Four Noble Truths and evoke the fourfold right understanding is enough. Such is wrong thinking. So in this passage, what explains is the previously that we've discussed the tenfold right understanding. So some of the factors of that tenfold right understanding can be found in some other religions as well. For an example, like karma and rebirth, even though it is not the lengthy or specific explanation like in Buddhism, but some of the teachings can be found in some other religions. But these fourfold right understanding, or the understanding about the Four Noble Truths, is that only we can gain in Buddhist teachings. In a time where Buddha has been born in the world. So to be able to understand and come to know about this fourfold right understanding is very rare, because that we all know the Buddhas are incredibly rare in the world. They do not appear in all the time. So understanding about these Four Noble Truths is very rare, and it's very, very special because, as I mentioned before, it can be only found in Buddhist teachings. Any other religion that you can't find the Four Noble Truths. And as explains here, when someone may think, okay, that understanding about the Four Noble Truth is enough, other than the Dasavattuka Sammaditi, or tenfold right understanding. But it's not so, because the tenfold right understanding is the foundation of this Buddhist spiritual path. If you do not have pretty good understanding about the tenfold right understanding, then it's almost impossible to go forward, practice the Buddhist spiritual path. So the tenfold right understanding strengthen your right view. Only when you develop that understanding, you can quite easily go forth in the Buddhist spiritual path. Fourfold right understanding is a very broad form of right understanding, that even the tenfold right understanding is included in it. If a person is well grounded in the fourfold right understanding, he would certainly have comprehended the existence of wholesome and unwholesome actions. Their consequences, and the presence of a hereafter, etc. If he does not accept these principles, then he would not be firmly grounded on the fourfold right understanding. However, it has to be asserted that by being sternly based on the tenfold right understanding does not mean that the one is properly placed on the fourfold right understanding. So it again explains the importance of understanding the tenfold right understanding. That's Dasavattuka Sammaditi. When you grounded, when you have pretty good understanding about the tenfold right understanding, then it's quite easy to practice or to know about the fourfold right understanding. Yes, in the fourfold right understanding is very vast and broad, Tenfold right understanding is also included in the fourfold right understanding. Although fourfold right understanding is just a single phrase, actually it should be mentioned in four component parts, to wit, right understanding on the fact of suffering, right understanding of the cause of suffering, right understanding of the cessation of suffering, and right understanding of the way to the cessation of suffering. So these fourfold understanding is important to be realized separately. For an example, like the noble truth of suffering. Those who have studied Abhidhamma can understand quite well. You can divide the ultimate realities into these understandings. For an example, the understanding of right understanding of the suffering, that we can include all the 28 rupas as the suffering. Then the 81 worldly chittas, laukika chittas, and 51 mental factors, chetasikas, except craving. So all these that we can put into the, or we can categorize into the noble truth of suffering. Then the origin of suffering, the mental factor, the craving, the tanha, the lobha, falls into the second noble truth. Then we all know the third one is the nibbana, the separate ultimate reality, unconditioned ultimate reality. Then the last one, which we are discussing, is again include the magga, or the path factors, which also included in the this noble truth of suffering. Right understanding, right thoughts, right speech, etc. Then thereon, when the right understanding on the fact of suffering realizes this sakkaya ditthi, the self-assertion, belief in an abiding personality or ego disappears, and the Panchakanda is viewed as a process of varied suffering, a process that drags ad nauseam. When the right understanding of the cause of suffering, craving, is realized, the fact of rebirth, so long as craving exists, becomes manifest, obliterating the Uchcheda Ditti, which negates the rebirth after death. So when you understand the five aggregates as suffering, or when you understand the suffering, the first noble truth, then you realize that there is no so-called being or self-identity relinquishes or disappears. Then the second noble truth, when you understand the craving as a noble truth, the second noble truth, then you can disappear, you can eradicate the wrong view, Uchcheda Ditti. Uchcheda Ditti means that someone believes there is no life after death. So we know that when someone enters to the Sotapanna state, they eliminates the wrong view, Ditti. When the right understanding of the cessation of suffering realizes that the fact that when causes disappear, there are effects too, were away, is penetrated and Shashwata Ditti, which stipulates an eternal ego is irrevocably revoked. So when you realize the Nibbana, the third noble truth, here it says that you um, you can eliminate all these wrong views. Saswata Ditti, actually, when you realize, when you become Sotapanna, all these wrong views that you can eliminate, Saswata Ditti or eternal ego, then Uchcheda Ditti, the wrong view, Sakkaya Ditti, all the wrong views that you can eliminate forever. So when you understand these noble truths, you eliminate all these wrong views. So Shaswata Ditti means someone who believes an eternal ego transmigrates into life after life, something like that. When the right understanding of the way leading to the cessation of suffering is realized, it is understood that nirvana is reached through a well-regulated policy, and once purification and rebirth happen impersonally. Example, not by oneself or Shramana, Brahmana, or by the good grace of any other external agency. Yes, it explains that the non-self phenomena. Someone may think, okay, when somebody realizes the nirvana, it is of a person, but in ultimate sense, there is no person, as we also already have discussed. There is only the ultimate realities. That's what it says here. Um, It is understood that nirvana is reached through a well-regulated policy, and once purification and rebirth happen impersonally, not by oneself or Shramana Brahmana or by the good grace of any other external agency. This obliterates the non-actional view, Akiriya Ditti, and a causal view, Ahetuka Ditti, which stipulates that beings become purified or demean by chance. What explains here is when you realize these noble truths, you can dispel all these wrong views. Moreover, by the right understanding of the fact of suffering, the result of the right understanding of the cause of suffering, eternal, pleasant, happy, egoistic nature held with respect to the five skandhas is relinquished. There is a multiplicity of views added to the pool of views by religious personalities not knowing the quiddity of the truth of the cause of suffering. So here briefly explains about the wrong views which were available in the Buddha's time, that we know that there were so many wrong views, like 62 wrong views um, has been have been explained in the Buddhist text. So here a number of wrong views have been explained. It is a false view that this world, the universe, is created by some omnipotent God or Brahma and is sustained as he wishes and finally destroys it. This is known as Ishvara creative theory. And even today, there are some other main religions who teaches this ideology, creative theory. those followers or those religions teach that there's a Almighty God who create the world and who destroys the world, who gives punishments and who gives a divine grace to the humans, something like that. But when you realize these noble teachings, noble truths, you can understand that these views are wrong, not correct. Another false view is a pantheistic theory, where God is made an impersonal force that pervades and is immanent in the universe as a whole. There cannot be an act of creation, but a creative force out of which arises manifold objects. At the destruction of the world, the manifold objects which it has manifested is said to dissolve and be one with it. This is known as a pantheistic theory or Prakritivad. So this is also one of the wrong views which were available at the Buddha's time. Yet another false theory is the theory of time, which lays out that only and only due to time that world originates and destroys. The creator and the destroyer is time. No God or Brahma is envisaged by this theory. So this third one, it explains that there's no God or someone who creates the world or destroys, but it is the time theory, the Kalavada. This is also a wrong view. Another imperfect theory states that as needle-like outgrowths of trees needed no one to fashion them, as fruits like wood apple needed no one to ensphere the essence, as no one was needed to adore the various birds with multifariously colored feathers. Everything happened by the force of nature. It is by the force of nature that world arises and finally destroys. This is known as the theory of nature, Sabhavavad. So here there's a simile of a needle. Mm, not needle actually, it's something that a reel actually, reel. When you drop a reel onto a ground and it'll go until end the reel. Something like that. These the humans or the beings at one point they will end their suffering according to this theory. And again, there are some fruits and shapes of the fruits is no one created. So it's natural. And the birds and various colors of birds. So no one creates them, and that's the nature. So in this theory, it is called the theory of nature, but it is also a wrong view. By cognizing the cause of suffering, intuitively such superstitious beliefs, understandings can be thrown into the limbo of oblivion as a result of the right understanding that dawns consequently. So when someone penetrates the noble truths, so it is obvious that he may not hold any of those wrong views anymore as he understands the noble truths. Some as a result of wrong understanding consider realms of form and formless realms as nirvana and assiduously try to attain to them. The knowledge of the cessation of suffering dispels such wrong views. The knowledge of the way leading to the cessation of suffering dispels the incorrect paths to enlightenment, like sensual indulgence and self mortifications. Yes, in some of the sutras explains why those um, manifold wrong views has been arised, as explains here. And when we read the Buddhist texts, that even you can understand that in the Buddha's time, the spiritual development is immense. Those rishis and those people who are interested in spiritual practices, they have found the three realms. They have they had the understanding about the three realms, the sense sphere, the kama loka, and the rupa loka and the arupa loka, the fine material realm and immaterial realm. So according to their spiritual experiences, as here mentioned, some people attain those immaterial jhanas, I mean immaterial realms, and find material realms, and they were unable to develop their mentality more than that. So they thought, okay, that's the ultimate realization. So then they explain to the followers to reach those realms as ultimate realization. That's how those wrong views were created. But in the Buddhist teachings, as the Buddha understood, Buddha penetrated the truths that he explains. No, all these places where beings are born is not permanent. They are impermanent, and they falls into the subject of suffering. And then, as here mentioned, that all the wrong practices like self-indulgence, kama sukhallikana yoga, then self-mortification, attakilamatana yoga, torturing oneself, and enjoying the sensual pleasures, and these extremes is abundant when you realize these noble truths. Those who like to imbue themselves in the river of the aforementioned right understanding should consult expert teachers and practice and familiarize themselves with the truths as the fact of suffering, etc. When one does so, the truth, perceiving right understanding, arises within him, obviating the darkness of ignorance. This knowledge is worldly. As one keeps on advancing in the path, the day would finally arrive when one sees with magnificent perspicacity the whole of the four Aryan truths with the splendor of immaculate right understanding that puts one in line with the supramundane nirvana. So it is very important to study about these noble truths. What is the noble truth of suffering? What is the noble truth of origin of suffering, and the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering? Even the worldly understanding, before you experience by yourself, that you have to have some understanding about these teachings. If you have studied some Abhidhamma or even sutras, if you study them quite deeply, that you can develop good understanding about these noble truths. And if you discuss maybe Kalyana Mittas like monks or some other people who have sound knowledge about these, it is vitally important to uh, develop the understanding, and that understanding, though it is worldly, will be helpful you to gain these the noble realization one day. So it is a very important fact to be realized or understand even beforehand. Is there anything to be clarified about what we discussed so far? Or else we can go forward.
I think we can proceed, no, Bande?
Yes. Okay. Then the right thoughts. So we've discussed so far the right understanding, basically in twofold right understanding, the tenfold right understanding, then the fourfold right understanding. Now, the second noble, second right understanding, the right thought, right thoughts, samma sankappa. For one who is overwhelmed in darkness can come into contact with the objects surrounding him only by touching the objects with his hands. An object would be known only if his hands make contact with it. Consequently, if his hand did not grasp an object, to that extent he would not know the presence and the nature of the object. So also if the mind grabs onto a mind object, to that extent it or them can be known. What the mind would not grasp, there is no way of knowing them. Apart from mind objects, mind spontaneously take hold of objects, reaching it through the five senses, and they are form, sound, smell, taste, tactile objects. To the rest of the objects, mind should be impelled and prodded with a certain amount of effort. The process of diverting the mind to immediately unknown objects is known as thinking. The mind is diverted to the aforesaid unknown territory by one of the samkharas or mental formations known as vitarka, sankappa, is an alternative to the same term. This is, in common parlance, referred to as thinking. Amidst thoughts, one experiences there are those which are detrimental to oneself and to others. And so are those that are for the benefit of oneself and others. Thoughts that are detrimental are known as miccha sankappa, while thoughts that are benign and beneficent are known as samma sankappa. It is this samma sankappa that we deal herein. There are many benign thoughts, from which we tackle here only three. Therefore, in pointing out the three, it has been said that Naishkramya, Avyapada and Avihimsa are the three Sankappas which comprise Samma Sankappa of the Noble Eightfold Path. So, right thoughts or the Samma Sankappa, when you hear it, that we know there are innumerable of right thoughts. But here only focuses on 3 Samma Sankappas. Samma Sankappa, in ultimate sense, there's a Chaitasika mental factor, and that mental factor called vitakka, and that is here in ultimate sense as right thoughts or samma sankappa. So here, tattakatamo samma sankappo, nekkama sankappo, avyapada sankappo, avihimsa sankappo, ayang uchchati samma sankappo. So we know that these eight factors, the path factors that we have to develop beforehand. I mean, before that we completely realize, before that we step onto the noble stages in mundane levels, that we have to develop these factors, these path factors, maggangas, as we discussed before, the right understanding, which is the panya in the ultimate sense, that we know that there is a chaitasika, the mental factor called panya. That is the first, the path factor, right understanding, in the sense of the noble, I mean, the ultimate realities. Now the second one is samma sankappa, the vitarka. So here there are 3 specific thoughts here that we have to develop in order to improve this specific path factor, the right thoughts. The first one, the thought of Naishkramya, the renunciation. By Naishkram is denoted renunciation, leaving, liberation or escape. Being cling to form, sound, smell, states and tactile objects. Herein, Naishkram is used to connote a renunciation from the prison of sense pleasures. If by some sort of thinking or reflection on the part of the person weans himself away from sense gratification, loosens his bondage to such pleasures, that is called Naishkramya Sankappa. Thoughts with craving leading to sensual pleasures are termed Kama Sankappa. Naishkramya Sankappa is diametrically opposed to Kama Sankappa. Naishkramya arises by shattering and totally defying the essence of Kama Sankappa. So the Kama Sankappa means the thoughts on sensual pleasures. The sensual pleasures means cling to form, sound, smell, states, and tactile objects. The thinking, develop thoughts on these objects are called Kama Sankappa, which is against of this, the right thought, Samma Sankappa. So as Buddhists, that we are supposed to renounce these thoughts. We can renounce these thoughts by understanding the consequences of indulgence of sensual pleasures. There are so many sutras explains how beings suffer and face consequences of indulgence of these sensual pleasures. So as Buddhists, that we have to develop that understanding why that we, though we, I mean, you as lay people, you can enjoy the sensual pleasures, but still that you have to have some understanding when you practice or when you enjoy the sense pleasures. Fasting on days when 1/4 of the moon is visible. entering priesthood, observing the precepts of self-denial, indulging in samatha and vidarshana meditation should be made to be born in the mundane mind. Okay, these are the practices that we can develop the renunciation, the thoughts against of kama sankappa, the observing sila, that we know the Buddhists are supposed to observe sila in 4 days, not only full moon, that there are some other way of making poise, like satara poe, something like that. That's what it explains, like quarter of the moon. And so all these days that Buddhists are supposed to observe sila, to practice this samma sankappa. Entering priesthood, being monks, observing the precepts of self-denial, indulging in some is observing sila and practicing meditation, samatha and vidarshana, all these wholesome practices that you can develop these right thoughts of renunciation, nekkamma sankappa. Observance of precepts on the full moon day is, to a certain extent, renouncing the pleasures of the senses. Thus, this too could be classified as Naishkramya. As mentioned before, when you observe Sila in full moon days, still that you develop these Nekkamma Sankappa, the thoughts of renunciation of sensual pleasures or sense indulgence. So also entering priesthood, practicing the precept of self-denial and indulging in meditation, sequestering one from many sensual pleasures. It is benefiting to reflect the disadvantage of sensual thoughts. In the one who does so, mundane Naishkramya Sankappa emerges, completely subjugating the sensual mendering of the mind. When you practice these methods, that you can develop enormous thoughts of samma sankappa, the right thoughts of nekkamma. By simultaneously engaging in vidarshana meditation, it gets sharpened and whetted, culminating in the knowledge of the way. Meanwhile, the knowledge reaches supramundane heights, crushing and annihilating sensual reflection, permeating with the knowledge, leading to the way of the cessation of suffering. Is when you develop in such a way that one day that at the culmination of this development that you can experience by yourself that renunciation 100% when you entered the path consciousness and path fruit consciousness, marga and phala chittas, when you entered that you can renounce all these sensual thoughts, kama sankappa, completely. Then thoughts of compassion, avyapada, desiring the happiness and well-being of humans, every other being and every other beings. The thoughts of such desiring being permeated with compassion and loving kindness is avyapada. So the avyapada is simply the metta, the maitreya. You sincerely wish all the beings well-being. So that is opposite of anger or hatred. So we are supposed to develop that is as well. This is diametrical opposition with desiring something bad or cruel to happen to someone or planning to do such. Cursing, cursing the likes thoughts. Thoughts admixtured with anger too are in stark contrast with compassionate thoughts. Compassion should first be developed. Before entering the path, the worldly objects, considering the disadvantages of cruelty and hatred, and inculcating compassion towards all living entities. Once the loving kindness thus established is advanced considerably, it can be carried to supramundane levels through the path consciousness, and the malefic thoughts can be totally rooted out. So the beforehand, when we practice this avyapada, the loving kindness, that the objects are the beings, other living beings. So we can develop these beautiful thoughts regarding living beings. When we develop the metta, the maitri or the loving kindness in mundane stage, having the object of beings, one day that you can develop your this quality or this path factor to the supramundane level. That's what it explains here, and in that level that you can completely eradicate the hatred. So we know that in the path consciousnesses, the marga chittas, it takes the nibbana as the object. Then thoughts of sympathy, avihimsa. Thoughts associated with liberating the being so drenched in suffering is termed avihimsa sankappa. This is also in diametrical opposition with harmful hatred and cruelty. When sympathetic thoughts come into being, they so arise, derencinating the essence of cruelty and unkindness. This concept of Samma Sankappa should be established by helping those who suffer, constantly engaging in meditation or of sympathy, and by considering the disadvantages of unkindness and harassment. Thus should it be raised to supramundane levels. So the compassion, when we meet some people or when we see some beings having difficulties, so we have to develop this quality, the sympathy or the karuna or the avihimsa, and we got to help them to elevate their suffering into happiness. So that's how that we can develop this the right thought, avihimsa. And at one point, when you develop this worldly thoughts, at one point that in the supramundane levels, that you can eradicate the hatred, the exact opposite of these wholesome thoughts. The three types of thoughts of renunciation, compassion, and sympathy in the worldly mind appear separately, with three types of functions at widely differing opportunities. So in the worldly stages, these three thoughts appear in separately. Is of course that there is no way that we can develop these three different thoughts in same objects. I mean at the same time. So in the worldly stage, that you have to develop these right thoughts in separately. However, in the supramundane path consciousness, the marga chittas, all the three forms of thoughts appear as samma sankappa, the right thought, where from all the functions discharged by separate from the Naishkram, etc., are taken over by one concept of Samma Sankappa. So in the supramundane stage, it becomes one thought, Samma Sankappa. But in worldly stage, that we have to develop it in three different ways. Um, hence, what is one in the supramundane path consciousness discoursed threefold. Then the right speech, the third path factor. What we usually call right speech is a true, wholesome speech. The right speech pertaining to the Eightfold Way is not this. According to what is expounded in Vibhanga Pali, right speech is refrain from lying, slandering, using raucous words, and idle talk. So in generally that when we regard the right speech, it means like the good words. But here in this, the path factors, the right speech is refrain from these fourfold bad words, unwholesome words, like lying, slandering, using raucous words or harsh words and idle talk. Tattakatama samma vacha musavada veramani pisuna vacha veramani parusa vacha veramani sampappalapa veramani ayam bucchati samma vacha. So this is how it explains in this context. In those who observe the precept of abstinence from lying, and of those who merely determine not, for example, to lie, who refrain from lying at the particular occasions and talk the truth, is there a certain moral force in their minds that prevents the form, for an example, lying. It is the force of Samma Vacha. So we know that the right speech is the mental factor, a chetasika. So it is sort of force that we can develop. So we can develop it in a number of ways in beforehand, as mentioned here. When you have a chance to lie, but you don't lie. So in order to do that, you have to have some develop some ability. That is what is called Samma Vacha, or the right speech, which is one of the 52 mental formations, samskaras. It stands as a preventive of lying, slander, using harsh words, and idle talk. It is precisely because of this that is mentioned that abstinence of lying, etc., constitute right speech. So uh, when you abstain or refrain from these uh, four ways of bad speech or wrong speech, then you develop this the right speech, which is a mental factor. Those who are desirous of transcending samsara should reflect on the disadvantages of lying. Study biographies of the King Sutasoma and Sanusamanera with the value of truth. Utter truth, refrain from lying, not slander that besmirches the relationship of others, that breaks the others' relationships. Talk so as to encourage the unity of others. Refrain from harsh words that wound the hearts of others. Utter soft words even when others are using harsh words on you. Also refrain from idle talk that defraud the words of the two conversing parties involved. Speak words that are morally and spiritually uplifting, and thus should be developed and practice the right speech. So when you study the Bodhisattva, Maha Bodhisattva, how he practiced the perfections, and even some Arahantas in their lay life, how they practice these good qualities. So when you study them, that you can quite easily, practice these right speech. So there are many examples. If you find that there's a book called Paramita Prakarana, which was written by the same author, Venerable Rerukane Chandrimalathera, that you can read the perfection of truth, Satya Paramita, and it explains how he practiced this right speech, and even if his life, life was danger, but still that he was not ready to lie. So that we, in order to develop this right speech, that we have to refrain from lying and all other wrong way of words. Thus, for the who practice right speech, samma vacha, as when they deter themselves from lying and right speech, the right speech that generally prevails is mundane. It is focused on persons and objects, conditioned by which it arises. When truth is spoken as against lying, it prevails as eradicative of lying. When benevolent words are spoken against tale carrying, it prevails as eradicative for idle talk. When benevolent words are spoken against harsh speech and frivolous talk, it prevails as eradicative of harsh speech and frivolous talk. If for the one who refrains from evil doing, someday beholds the path, consciousness, the mundanely developed right speech becomes supramundane. The supramundane right speech, unlike mundane right speech, which prevails on objects and things that may come underlying, prevails based on nirvana. The supramundane consciousness in one single stroke root out the four way of unwholesome speech. So in mundane level, that you have to develop this the path factor, the right speech. When you have a chance to lie or use harsh words, um, do idle chatting and carrying tales, breaking friendships, and when you have that opportunity, that you have to avoid them, and when you avoid that uh, wrong words, in those times, that you develop certain ability, certain force, which means you develop this um, path factor, the right speech, samma vacha path factor. It's a chetasika, it's a mental factor which you can develop by practicing. And as mentioned here, when you enter to the supramundane stages, like the path consciousnesses, that you can eliminate these wrong words forever, as it explains here. And this, the path chitta, in the mundane level, when we practice this, we take objects as people and situations. But in the supramundane level, the path consciousness arise having the object of nirvana. In that chitta, that the path chitta has the ability to eliminate these ability of bad words. It eliminates forever. So that's why that we are supposed to develop in mundane level this ability, the right speech. So these are mental factors. The right understanding is a mental factor. A chetasika, a wholesome chetasika, and then right thoughts. Samavacha is chetasika. Then the right speech is also a chetasika. So these chetasikas, these path factors that we are supposed to develop in mundane levels, when we have chances to do some wrong things, that we can avoid them, we can refrain them from them by considering the consequences, by considering the benefits of developing these qualities that you can develop. I think that's enough for today. The next time that we can discuss the rest of the path, these factors. So now is the time to have some discussion on what we have discussed so far. Any questions?
Sarai Bante,
Yes.
when a person attends so on, by that stage they have developed the supramundane level of all these.
Yes, that's the
Eightfold
very
path.
first time that you gain all these eight path factors in one chitta. That's the very first
In
time.
one chitta, yeah.
Yes.
At that's at a supramundane level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The path consciousness, marga chitta.
Marga chitta is
Yes.
path consciousness.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Bante.
It's okay.
Path consciousness.
So Bante, it's interesting that by developing the mundane stages one by one, eventually you can arrive at the supramundane level once they all come together.
Yes, as we discuss.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
In
quite
the
quite an important point, isn't it, Bante?
yes, in mundane level, that we can develop it.
Mm. So it's within reach.
Yes, we are supposed to develop in every occasion, when we speak, when we do whatever that we have to consider. Then we can develop to some certain extent these path factors. And basically, this is what we are doing right now when we discuss Dhamma, when we learn Dhamma, which means that we develop the right understanding, which means the panya, the very first, the path factor. And eventually, when you develop this right understanding, your thoughts is also influential on the right understanding. And when you strengthen your right thoughts, which means it has huge influence on your words as well.
One day, on reflection, it appears that in our day-to-day life, we need to slow down a lot more and give a lot more
Yes.
thought before we...
Yes, we have to be conscious.
Yes. Because we talk very fast and don't spend enough time thinking.
Yes. We have to consider much more when we speak, when we think even,
The choice of words.
yes. Yes, if we are wise enough that we can develop these path factor in almost every occasion, whatever we do. That's why there is something called metta vachikam. When you speak, even you can speak soft words.
It's a very useful point, isn't it, Bante? Because that helps us to get on the path on our day-to-day life.
Of course, that's what we are supposed to do as Buddhists. Day-to-day life. This is something. This teaching is that we can practice. There's a word for that. I can't remember exact word.
Sorry.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Avasarai Bante, by practicing metta, karuna, and asubha meditation, can we develop right thoughts?
Of course, whatever we do, the wholesome actions, maybe whatever the meditation objects that you get, whatever the wholesome actions you do, maybe dana or the chanting, you develop all these. And even when you observe precepts, you still develop these, not at the same time, but separately you develop these, the path factors.
Lots of merits to you, Bante, informing Kritika as well today.
It's okay.
Bante, just as a follow-up to that earlier question, so is it correct to understand it as that we first have to have the right thought, then followed by the right speech or action? It cannot be the other way around, can it?
You mean in unwholesome actions or something?
Or even wholesome, to direct it in the right, to have right speech, one would first need to have the right thought, isn't it?
Yes, of course. That's why that we discussed before the tenfold right understanding, and then about fourfold right understanding, and all these connected.
It's only from there we can progress to the second speech and action and everything.
Yes, yes.
It's essential to slow down and think first.
Yes, and as you mentioned, that the opposite is exact same. If you don't
Yeah.
have the right understanding,
Yes, yes.
right? Your thoughts is not right. Then your words, then your actions.
And you're on the wrong path.
Yes. That's why it's very important to strengthen your right view. When you learn the teachings, that you always strengthen your right view.
It's very useful, Bante. Much merit to you.
It's okay. Okay, if no more questions, that we can wind up our Dhamma discussion here. Okay, today that we discuss these noble teachings of the Supreme Buddha. First of all, last of all, let's share these merits that we've generated so far to our relatives who have passed away. May all our relatives accept these merits and be well, happy, and prosperous. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Let's transfer merits to the divine beings as well. May all the deities accept these merits and may protect all of us. Itthavata cha amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Itthavata cha amhehi Sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya. By the power of the merits that we've generated today, may all of us be able to reach the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Say sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.